Well, hello, friends, and welcome to Boston.com's Cocktail Club. I'm Jackson Cannon, and soon I'll be joined by Tersillia Valentini from Black Lamb in Boston. Tonight, we're making cocktails with Bombay Sapphire gin, catching up on the restaurant and bar community, and of course, sharing some tips the pros use to make great drinks at home. When you registered, if you clicked through to Gordon's Wine and Spirits and purchased the Bombay Sapphire gin cocktail kit, then you have almost everything you need. Profits from these kits go to Off Their Plate. This is a great charity that buys meals from restaurants that need the business and distributes them to frontline workers and others in need. First, I'm going to go through everything that we need for the session. And of course, all the while, we're taking your questions from the chat. The ingredients you'll need: some Bombay Sapphire gin. And for the Bohemian, this is a great modern classic from Boston, you'll need St. Germain's Elderflower liqueur, as well as some grapefruit juice, and a dash of either Peychaud's or Creole-style bitters. Options for this one are many. If you want to go a little further, you can add egg white to a drink like this, or even a little champagne if you happen to have an open bottle lying around. And for the martini that we're going to stir after that, you'll need your Bombay Sapphire gin and your favorite dry vermouth. And we're going to suggest a touch of orange bitters, and we'll do a lemon twist over that. Again, if you like the olive, you can drop that in as well, sort of an Astoria style martini. We'll be using just regular cubed ice. And for cocktail glasses, I'm going to go with a coupe for my Bohemian and a V-shaped classic martini glass for my martini. I just like them that way if you like your drinks on the rocks, or you want to use something a little bit bigger. The Bohemian looks really great in like a big white wine glass, if that's your thing, or even in a rocks glass. Just dropping a little ice to get a chill on my glassware before we get started. Other equipment we're going to need is a shaker. And then for stirring your drink, you can use kind of a mixing glass, or you can actually do it if you got the kit in that beautiful little mule mug even, or any kind of open vessel that allows you enough room to kind of stir the ice around the martini to integrate those flavors. Need something to measure with. I'm going to use these bar jiggers. These are compound measurements, 2/1, 3/4/2, real easy for us to use in a bar when we're mounting in rounds or doing a lot of different drinks at the same time quickly. But if you don't have that measuring device, a tablespoon is great. Remember, a tablespoon is half an ounce. So if the drink calls for 1 ounce, that's 2 tablespoons. Real easy, highly accurate. We don't use them in the bar because they're just a little bit slower, but in home drink making, totally fine. I've got a cutting board out. I've got a peeler to make twists, and I always keep a plate and some tweezers and stuff like that around as well. A couple of advanced questions from the chat from your registration. Matt asks, are gin martinis becoming more popular than vodka martinis? Slow your roll, Matt. That would be crazy. Vodka's still king. I hope that gin is gaining in popularity. A lot of times people don't want to hear you dictate how they should take their martini, but there's lots of little sub names attached to them. We'll get into that when we're stirring and enjoying one together. Arlene wants to know if we've tried herbaceous gins from Ghana. I haven't. Oh my goodness, that sounds amazing. Get it on the to-do list. Going to do that. And William invites me to bring back the Hawthorne. William, sadly, I have to tell you, it's not coming back in the location it was, but if we do a little pop-up this summer, you all will be the first to know. All right, my guest tonight, I'm so excited. Tersillia Valentini was born and raised in Boston, Mass, and has been in the hospitality industry for over 14 years. Like so many, she got her start as a host and server, but then she took a path less traveled and transitioned to the back of the house for a few years stint as a line cook. Wanting to learn every aspect of the industry led Tersillia to work all the jobs she could: busser, barback, expediter, inevitably leading to positions behind bars in both New York and Boston. Along with her close network, she keeps busy on several passion projects, including virtual bartending lessons, complete with craft cocktail kits, and executing Afro-Caribbean food and drink pop-ups. Currently, you can find her as part of the team at Black Lamb in Boston's South End. She joins us tonight from one of their sister bars, Shore Lead. If you can support her directly, the tip jar is out and her Venmo credentials are in the chat. She is a great bartender, a gin enthusiast. Welcome, Tersillia.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Jackson.
So great to have you here. Having just a little trouble hearing you, Tersillia. Let's make sure that that's working.
How can you hear me now? Is that better?
Fantastic.
All right.
So what is happening? Tell the folks who don't know, tell us a little bit about Black Lamb and Shore Leave.
So Black Lamp is located on Tremont Street in South End, just a block away from historic Beehive. I'm currently coming to you from Shore Leave here in Boston Ink Block, which is our sister restaurant bar. Hopefully we'll be back open in a couple weeks.
Very, very exciting. What else do you have going on? Do you have any pop-ups on the calendar?
Not on the immediate calendar, but we are hoping to get back started with some roots and libations, cocktail kits, and pop-ups coming soon to Union Square's Beer Garden, courtesy of District 7.
Awesome. Well, I'm getting a little bit thirsty. Shall we make our first drink and keep the chat going from there?
I'm excited to make it.
So I love this drink, and let's take our time doing this because we're gonna make it a little bit different. Each of us is gonna make a slightly different version. But the Bohemian is a great drink created in Boston by Misty Kalkofen in 2008. But it sort of has an interesting history of kind of not heavily being attributed to her. So it sort of took on a little mythic status where people thought it was a classic because it really presents as one. Really great, simple recipe. And the one on the screen is what I'm going to do with the Bombay Sapphire gin, grapefruit juice, Saint Germain, and I'm going to use a little bit of Peychaud's bitters, the original. Tersillia is going to make the same drink with egg white, and we'll talk about why, and use a little bit of those Orleans bitters. But first, I wanted to say, if you don't have Saint Germain, I'm seeing some questions in the chat. You have a little bit of Cointreau, that will stand in and not really be the same drink, but as far as like the density and the sweetness and the play, and it actually will resemble some other classic cocktails we can get into. Go ahead and substitute that, or whatever your favorite liqueur is, and you might be discovering the next Bohemian cocktail. So with that, I'm going to do an ounce of Bombay Sapphire to start. And Tersillia, if you're going in a different order or doing things differently, feel free to pipe right in and tell folks how you're doing that.
I'm going to follow your lead, Jackson, but normally I would start backwards. I would add my gin last. On the bar, we like to start with the least expensive ingredient and work our way up.
That is such a great trait of the newer generations of bartenders. I still sort of I came in the age where you kind of work top down, and so I find myself doing it from time to time, even though it makes a lot of sense. The reason that a lot of great bartenders work from least expensive ingredient to most expensive, if you make a mistake, you have less waste, which is very important. So we're going to be very careful here and not have that happen to us. Now I'm going to do an equal measure, an ounce of Saint Germain's Elderflower liqueur. How adorable are these 200 milliliter bottles?
I love this bottle. It's perfect.
You know, sometimes it all comes together. What's in it is most important, but a bottle like this, when it's empty, I'm probably going to keep it around. It's so
I like to use them as flower bases.
So nice to look at, right?
Yeah.
And then I worked ahead just a little bit, just a ruby red grapefruit. They are coming in really nice still. We're sort of on the edge of the prime citrus season, but these are gorgeous. And then I'm gonna buck that up with a healthy sort of dash and a half there of Peychaud's bitters. And these are great. There's wonderful flavors of Seville orange, coriander. That's really, to me, kind of the Creole style bitters that those are the hallmark flavors.
And then here at the end, I know you're not using egg whites today, but I'm going to go ahead and add 3/4 of an ounce of egg whites.
Just answering the chat, equal portions on all of them. 1 ounce, 1 ounce, 1 ounce on the gin, elderflower, and grapefruit juice. All right, are you doing any steps in the shaking process that we need to know about? Are you ready to go right with ice in there?
So since I'm using egg white, I'm going to shake without ice just for a few seconds. just to get it a little frothy and get the egg white started, and then I'll go in and add some ice and get it nice and cold.
Love that. And we were talking earlier about this idea. You can add egg white to almost any sour.
Yes.
And it's, early versions of the whiskey sour sort of split. There was a whiskey sour and then there was a Boston sour, and that was a whiskey sour with egg white. So you can put it to the test and try all your favorite sours with it. It just acts like egg white does, and forms a little meringue, and doesn't have a strong flavor, but it has like a light, airy texture, which we're going to be able to see in Tersillia's Bohemian. Another fun thing with this drink, we've served so many of these at the Hawthorne back in the day with a little shot or so of champagne added. And we had to put a button in for that because it was so popular. So the recipe is not only durable, it's flexible that way, and you can sort of soup it up however you like your cocktails to come out. And I'm going to use my Hawthorne strainer with a little bit of a tea strainer. I don't have any egg white that I'm afraid of holding back. Oh my goodness, come on.
It looks so refreshing.
And then I took a little bit of peel off of my grapefruit. And if you're going to do that, this is one of those drinks, when we've made a sour like this, if we want to give it a little extra zest, we generally don't want to leave it in the glass and kind of disturb the appearance of it. So I'm just going to do a little bit right over. And I just like a little bit of grapefruit peel in the air. And I like a little bit on the glass to kind of get on my fingers. It just, citrus is so uplifting, Oh, yours looks like a delight. And now tell us what you're doing.
Extra drops of bitters just on the top to add some extra. When you pick up the drink, you'll be able to smell them, and they also look really pretty as well. Here's my version of egg white. You can see it kind of gives it a little froth, a little velvety texture.
Ah, cheers.
Cheers.
Good to have a drink with you.
Likewise.
Wow. It really is, right? It was it made a small roundup of like best cocktails for spring and summer in 2008, and I just with the Sapphire, it's really quite unusual. I think the Elderflower in the Saint Germain is doing that thing. It's transitioning across the grapefruit into the other citruses in the gin. Man, that is just, it's like I get roses, and like I feel like I'm walking down by the old like honeysuckle that used to grow on the fence, like all these aromas,
Absolutely. I think this was a great gin for that drink because it's not overpowering the Saint Germain, and the Saint Germain is playing really nice with it.
Right. Yeah. So this drink was created with a London Dry in mind. And, a lot of people are drinking different styles of gin. There's, that London Dry, that juniper forward style that's backed up with a little bit of citrus and spice. And then there's lots of popular kind of new botanical ones. Sapphire really lives in kind of a rare space where it's sort of spicy and citrusy and elegant. But there are a lot of different subtle properties of gins that in cocktails will work. And I think it's really important for you to remember like your preferences. So if you're a person who likes the Bombay Dry better than Sapphire, well, you should be making your gin drinks with that. It's not really like you should be making X drink with dry and Y drink with something else, like you should just kind of like lean in, find one that works, and you'll be surprised. Gin, the drinks will plug and play in the different cocktails. How much egg white did you use, Tersillia? The friends are asking.
3/4 of an ounce of egg white today, so I believe that's about 3 tablespoons.
That sure is. And then, so that's like slightly less than a whole a whole egg white, right?
Yes.
We think of like an average egg white as about an ounce. Can you tell the folks at home like how you prepare that egg white that you used out of the bottle?
Yes. So I just separated the yolk from the egg. You can use your hand, you can use the shell itself. And I just put it in this bottle today just to make it look nice, but you can just go straight from the egg. Just, go back and forth between the shell and just use it that way.
Well, that's a good trick for a party. You just take a few of them. You can save the yolks if you do it all at once like that, right? And use those in some baking or something fun, some ice cream maybe.
Some egg Benedict the next morning.
Hello, hello. So hey, all of these, there's a few questions coming in about the Bombay East versus the Dry versus Sapphire. We're really grateful to our sponsor, Bombay Sapphire Gin. They've made available to us Eddie Johnson, who's the West Coast ambassador for the brand, and he's joining us from Los Angeles. Jealous much? Well, today was so beautiful here, Eddie. It's probably the least jealous we'll be of where you're living. But hey, buddy, good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all the Bombay love, man. I appreciate it. It's really awesome to see everyone in the chat kind of calling out all the different SKUs and stuff like that. So
well, I wish I could be
really
making you a drink, but we're gonna duck out and give you a couple minutes to tell all of our friends everything that you can about this terrific gin.
Absolutely. You guys are making me thirsty over here. It's still 4 o'clock over here, so I got a couple more minutes to 5, but I'll probably cheat it a little early. But yeah, it's really cool to see you guys, playing with different cocktail recipes here. And I think it's really cool to see kind of the difference between the egg white style and kind of, just the sour style. One thing that's really interesting about the House of Bombay in general is that we're one of the only vapor infused gins on the market. So what that means is instead of cooking our botanicals on direct heat, we're actually letting the spirit basically heat, the vapors rise, and then the vapors push through the botanicals on the other side of the line arm. And this really changes hugely how these botanicals express. For us, our Master of Botanicals, Ivano Tenuti, is very, very specific and very focused on each individual botanical that we use and where it comes from and what that terroir does to how the botanicals express on the other end of our finished gin. So much so, like I tell this story all the time, Bombay Sapphire actually taught me what gin was by, having that uh-oh moment when someone calls me. I'm like, what's in gin? And I'm like, I know I've seen this somewhere. Bombay Sapphire is one of the first to really proudly show the botanical build on the bottle, which was huge for me as a bartender that was learning at the time. But that's very intentional because each one of these botanicals and where it's from plays a role in how the finished gin actually expresses. So yeah, like I said, seeing that kind of classic sour versus something a little bit heavier with egg white, I guess we could argue for days which one is the more classic or whatever. But it really just speaks to the versatility of gin, and especially Bombay Sapphire. Not only does it kind of lift up all of the notes of a citrus cocktail, but plays really big and bold as a kind of unashamed London Dry in stirred cocktails, as well as heavier styles like egg white cocktails or tiki cocktails. So really just speaks to the versatility. I saw a lot of questions about some of the different expressions. So Bombay Dry was our first, right? This is the flagship gin of the House of Bombay. It was launched in the late 50s, and it was basically reviving a recipe that came out of 1761. This is really the first vapor infused recipe for gin we ever saw. This was Thomas Bacon in the time where gin really needed to be set aside. We saw kind of a sharp decline of gin when it first hit the UK, and basically a lot of government action allowed 1 in every 4 homes in London to have a working gin still. So a lot of what was being made wasn't really, you know, quality. And so a lot of different government actions came into place that made people have to make more kind of quality gin. So this recipe came from that time, and also the time when the coffee still was introduced. So you were getting cleaner, brighter, more stripped down spirit. And so making gin in the traditional steep and boil way had to go through a couple different iterations before people got it right. And one of the beautiful things that came out of that was vapor infusion. So just a more kind of true and honest expression of those botanicals and their natural expression. And that leads us all the way up to 87 when Sapphire was introduced, really to bring kind of new life into the gin category. We were looking at a time in the 60s and 70s where vodka had really taken over, and a lot of the kind of bright, sexy marketing of vodka had really overshadowed the gin world. So Bombay Sapphire kind of opened up the gin world into competing in that you know, new adventurous space, and adding kind of new interesting botanicals to the mix, and still kind of stands out as like the world's most known premium style gin.
Well, thanks
I saw
for
a lot
that.
of comments. Yeah,
Eddie,
go
tell
ahead.
us quickly about the yeast and the other formulas before we have to get back into this. We only have a little bit of time.
Not a problem. So yeast is, like I said, Bombay Dry was our flagship. Every one of the Bombay gins has the 8 botanicals that are in Bombay Dry, kind of hitting all of those flavor camps from bright citrusy to earthy, to a little bit more like sweet and spicy. Sapphire kind of changed the game by introducing grains of paradise and cubeb berries. These are really floral, kind of almost black peppercorns. And then with yeast, we took it a step further and added some really interesting botanicals that kind of highlighted a lot of East Asian influence. So we have black peppercorns from Vietnam and lemongrass, and that really like spoke volumes to the bartender palate. So many bartenders love yeast, and it really expresses really nice with a lot of really tannic teas and things like that. So just added another tool to the belt. Our newest gin, this is Bombay Bramble. So the Bramble cocktail actually is a place of cocktail history that Bombay exists in. The original Bramble was written by Dick Bradsell in the late 80s. And he wrote it with Bombay because he was such a huge Bombay fan. So, of course, the flavored gin category is the hugest category in the gin space right now. So we wanted to do something kind of different and innovative like we always do. So this is actually fresh raspberry and blackberry infused on wheat spirit, blended with Bombay Dry. So the benefit of that, 9 grams of sugar, no refined or processed sugar, nothing unnatural in it. This is a dry drinking gin that is flavored with blackberry and raspberry. And really, I've been super excited to kind of debut this in the American market. So many people are kind of finding new, interesting ways to play with it, from spritz to tonic to sours. And so, yeah, if you see this out, please grab a bottle and get to experimenting with different cocktail styles, because this is just another really awesome tool.
Awesome. Eddie, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Come visit us. We'll make you some drinks in person.
Hey, I can travel again, so I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Awesome. Cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers.
That made me kind of wish I had a little Bramble on hand or some blackberries, but I think I'm going to be pleasantly surprised again by how much flavor and how much fun just a regular quote unquote martini can be. Tersillia, would you like to take us through the next cocktail?
Yes, I would love to. So we're going to get into the classic gin martini. You know, sometimes simpler is better. Let's start with the orange bitters. We're going to work backwards this time. If that's okay, Jack.
I'm with you. I'm going to do it right.
Okay. So we're going gonna
You
go
using
in.
Are you using the Scrappies, right?
I am, yes.
Awesome. I'm going to use a little bit of the Regans as well.
Okay. I love the Scrappies. It has a super cute little dropper. You have a few drops of the orange bitters there. Next, we'll go in with 1 ounce of your dry vermouth. For those that don't have a jigger, again, that's 4 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons for an ounce.
Sorry, you're right.
I'm with you. I'm here for you.
Sorry. Okay. There. This is the one we're using today. Any dry would work well.
Ooh, I
Let's
just got a whiff of that noily. It just smells like the ocean.
It does. Minerally, delicious.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is. Final ingredient is our 2 ounces of the Bombay Sapphire. I'm using a mixing glass today, but if you don't have one, any large vessel will do. We're gonna chill this martini down. We're gonna stir it for about 30 seconds. Dilution is just as important as the ingredients. I'm gonna make sure that it's properly chilled and diluted.
Have you ever made this style martini with something other than orange bitters? Have you used any of the other kind of? The question in the chat was, what can I substitute for orange bitters? And for me, I'm thinking maybe you want to leave it out, but because some of the Peychauds and Angostura are so powerful, you know.
I agree. I think that any other type of bitters would just take over the drink and it could ruin it. So I think if you don't have the orange bitters, just leave it out. It'll be still good. You'll get some of the, if you have the lemon pill, you'll get some of the essential oils from there. So it'll be okay. Once you start
and asking for measures on the bitters, it's you know, I've always thought of it, it's kind of it's sort of a seasoning here. So if you know that you love them, you can use a lot of it. If you're starting out, maybe use a little, but how many drops do you think you actually put in there?
Today I put about 4 drops, but you can go up to about 5 or, I mean, this dropper gave me really small drops, so you can go up to about 5 or 6. It won't overpower it too much. So I think I am properly chilled.
Celery, bitters.
This is my favorite part, is the lemon peel. I love lemon oil and seeing that spray come across the glass. Just point the outside of your lemon peel towards the glass and just squeeze, and then just kind of wipe it. You can leave it in, you can discard it, it's your preference. I'm gonna keep mine.
So I always like to drop, or sometimes like to drop an olive in, even when I've used the lemon twist, because it's really the oil of the lemon that's so good. But the little salt coming off the olive can be nice, and that's known in classics as an Astoria, whereas a Gibson is when you substitute a cocktail olive, which always, to me, I don't know about you, but it always seemed like, does it really get its own drink? Is it its own name? Because it just has this different garnish, you know, and it's all about kind of the marketing of it, I think, you know, that, but I mean, they're pretty much essentially the same drink. But
I agree.
the subtle,
Yes. The onion for me is very similar to this olive as well. It's just like a little bit of savory as you're sipping. You get like a little snack that brings out some of the flavors from the drink as well.
No, right.
Tersillia, I think we might be hearing some of your friends in the bar there. They might be closer to the microphone than they think.
Oh,
Suddenly
I
got
see.
suddenly
Okay.
suddenly got quiet there when I said something about. If you want to give them a
Sorry
little
about
like
that. Yes.
little sideways glance, I'm ready to dive in on this. I haven't had a sip yet. Cheers to you. Thanks for leading us through this.
Cheers, Jackson. Cheers, everybody. I love that. The citrus from the Bombay is coming out really nicely too.
Right? It's like a completely wow, that's I'm also getting that spice, you know? I don't think about the grains of paradise as much in the sour, but I'm getting like the heat of it.
Yes.
Um,
Kind of coats your mouth a little bit.
yeah, the texture's terrific. The aromatics are amazing.
It's delicious.
Oh,
But more people will try gin martinis. I know that it can be a little daunting if you're not used to gin, but I encourage everyone to give it a try. They're really fun.
yeah, I would, you know, it's, I think the part of the fear is like the intensity of it, the strength of it, kind of the quantity of booze. But when you make it this way, the way that you let us through 2-1, it's full of flavor, but it's not as much of a punch as 3 ounces of booze is, which is how a lot of people take their martinis, you know? So
Right.
I actually think a martini made like this with gin with so much kind of culinary flavor, right? Vegetal notes and citrus notes and all this thing. You could take a dirty vodka martini drinker and serve them this, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's what I've been trying to figure out how to make on my own," you know, because there's just so much savory flavor to this drink. I'm really enjoying it. This is fun.
This gin is that, for my personal taste, I think a lot of gins, especially the London Dry, some of them have a bit too much juniper for my taste. And this is a nice entry level gin. You don't get as much juniper. It's the citrus and the floral notes really come forward.
Well, it really predates a lot of the new gin and as a category at least, but it is one, you know. So I think maybe people sometimes I think people when they see this on the strength of a brand, they sometimes stay away from it, you know, when in fact like this was it may have some history to it now, but it's an innovative expression of a lot of really cool flavors worth visiting in different formats. I'm really glad we did. What just taking another couple of quick questions. What is your favorite porch sipping gin cocktail?
Porch sipping gin cocktail. Well, I'll give you a little view into how I make drinks at home. I make them really simple. So I usually have a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc, some lemon juice, and some gin, and I like to mix those 3 together on ice. It sounds weird, but for me it is delicious.
That sounds terrific. I'm not sure I've ever tried that. I might have to after this
And
martini.
then come see me at Black Lamb and I'll bring you lunch.
You can count on it. It's going to happen soon. Well, thank you so much for taking time to make some drinks with us, Tersillia. It's really good to get to meet you this way. Awesome. Well, that's all the time we have for Cocktail Club this week. Thanks so much for being here, friends. Please join us again Thursdays at 7 p.m. Next week, Jen LaForge is here, and we're going to have Santa Teresa rum cocktails for you. Make sure to follow the link from our sign-up page to Gordon's Wine and Spirits to pick up the Boston.com Santa Teresa rum cocktail kit. You'll be supporting off their plate and getting everything you need for next week's Boston.com Cocktail Club. Thanks to Bombay Sapphire. Thanks to Eddie. Thank you so much, Tersillia. Cheers.